Okay, I didn't have that on here. Okay.
Want me to text it to you?
No. I'm writing it on my paper now because I have to.
Trey Martinez, Fisher.
Okay. All right. And State Representative Ron Reynolds.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. It's good hearing your voice, Representative Reynolds.
It's good to be on with you again.
Okay.
I'm a big fan now.
Oh, you are very sweet. Okay. So you guys. Okay, we are coming up. Let me do this. Okay, I'm going to come on up. We are up. Hey, Kaiser, how are you? Kaiser, how you doing? We have got some of the runaway state representatives from Texas with us today, along with Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Texas Harris County Commissioner. It's one of the largest counties in the country. They're about to overtake Cook County as the third largest county in the United States. And he ran away almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, trying to push back against this conservative onslaught that is so alive and vibrant, along with the progressive strain in Texas. So they're in a big fight right now. We're going to talk about that. Many people are saying that the Senate should not have gone into recess with voting rights still on the table. And so I want to know what you think. Please go to Reverend Jackson's Twitter feed @RevJJackson, @RevJJackson, and let us know what you think. Should the Senate have taken care of that vital business before they went into recess? What do you think? Gary Hines, buenos dias, my sweet Maestro Hines from Sounds of Blackness. Everybody, love it. Daryl, how you doing? Vanderlei from down there in Brazil. Sending you much love. So everybody like and share. We're going to be up in a hot second. Thank you, Jeremy Geiger, my wingman here. We are coming up very, very shortly. So you're going to hear silence and we'll be coming right up. Rev Jackson. I'm about to turn this. You're not going to hear me now. I'm going to put. You're not going to always hear me during the breaks, everybody, because I don't want to forget for you to hear me during the show. So I'm plugging this in, okay? I'll see you shortly. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's Sunday, August 8th, 2021. I'm Santita Jackson. We're back. Thank you, Jeremy. We had some technical issues this morning, a lot going on. It's live radio, everybody. But I want to thank the Knockout in California and my wingman here, my technical producer, my board operator, Jeremy Geiger, for just faithfully being with us every Sunday. This is a tough gig, everybody. Because, we ask our board operators and technical producers to sacrifice their Saturdays and their weekends. And Jeremy also has other jobs, plural. So I want to thank him in a special way for being with us today. All right, everybody, let's talk about the vote. Let's talk about the vote. The vote is the right that positions you for all other rights that you have in this society. And the most restrictive voting rights laws are in the state of Texas, the Republic of Texas. And so we got a lot of folks who can talk with us about the runaway state representatives from Texas. They're trying to deny the state house a quorum. Will they be able to do it? I want to hear your thoughts. And the Senate is now in recess. Go to Reverend Jesse Jackson's Twitter feed at RevJ Jackson, and let us know if you think that the Senate should they have held off on a recess until they at least voted on the voting rights laws. I mean, really. What do you think about that? Please call me or text me. Well, no, call me at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. We've got a tremendous panel who are going to talk with us about this today. Starting off with Texas Harris County Commissioner, member of the family here, really, Rodney Ellis. And we have got Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds and Texas State Representative Trey Martinez Fisher. They are State Representatives Martinez Fisher, and Reynolds. They are the ones who have had to seek refuge, if you will, in Washington, D.C. Now, for the White House's portion, they have said, well, you all need to out-organize your opponents, the people who would upend your voting rights. Many people are saying, wait a minute. No, what we need you to do is to suspend the filibuster. If only for these two voting rights laws. That's all. Just, if you want to keep the filibuster, okay, I don't love it, but keep it. Keep it. But you can suspend the filibuster. That's called the mini nuclear option. But we're going to talk about that because that's something, Reverend Jackson, you've been very, very intent on ending or suspending the filibuster, at least for these voting rights bills. Why don't you talk to us, Reverend, before we bring on our Texas contingent?
It seems, number one, we should thank the legislators for standing up and interfering with the government's ability to impose upon us unjust laws. When Dr. King spoke in 1963, there was only one black official, all the South, in Atlanta. We couldn't have done this in 1963. The power that we didn't have before. Secondly, it was used in slavery time in legislation. It was pro-slavery, pro-segregation. Used to stop women's right to vote. Used to stop consumer education. Because corporations didn't like consumer education for protection. It's used as a weapon to in fact stop progress. The filibuster is that. Secondly, and me, Rodney, we must think about the fact that if we lose our struggle, Democrats lose, democracy loses, and the country loses. If we lose, Biden can't win. Schumer can't be chairman. Pelosi cannot be Speaker of the House. They can't leave the few of us in the streets to, in fact, set the climate. If they who can't stand to gain from it must stand with us in a big way. Santita, I think that in this sense, voting rights struggle is really on. They hit us in three ways. One, they hit us by making it difficult to get access to voting. Two, once you vote, they then try to make the vote. They want to punish the vote, decertify it. Make it difficult if you do vote, then decertify the vote. So in Georgia, they removed the Secretary of State from handling it to the legislature. So the legislature that's pro-Trump will never certify anti-Trump election. This the democracy is on the assault in a big way. Big way.
Well, you know what, Reverend, let us go to, starting with you, Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, one of the biggest counties in the country. This is the most voting restrictive state in the United States. What is Governor Abbott doing? He's calling yet another special session. You've been through this before.
Tina, he has called another special session. I want to start as Reverend did by congratulating those courageous Texas legislators. And in many ways, they are following the tradition of Martin Luther King and your father, Reverend Jackson. And, it's a tough battle, but they're doing it. The governor started another special session yesterday. The Senate was in session. The House didn't have a quorum. And I hope that they don't make a quorum today where they adjourn until Monday. I hope they don't have one on Monday. And Trey Martinez Fisher and Ron Reynolds are really at the epicenter of this. It's following a rich tradition of a Illinois state legislator, Abraham Lincoln, broke the quorum when he was sitting in the Illinois State House, jumped out of the second floor of a building, almost broke his leg, by the way. So it's a rich tradition. It's a bold move. It has put this issue on the front burner. And I'm just so proud at the press coverage they've gotten and the financial support. And Reverend Jackson was there with them 2 days last week out there marching. And I'm just so appreciative for his leadership.
Well, you know, Commissioner Ellis, you have brought to us, because you have been helping to guide these legislators. You have brought to us two of our, and I just say they belong to us now, these Texas state representatives, these persons who've been so bold. We've got Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds and Texas State Representative Trey Martinez Fisher. Let me start with you, Trey Martinez Fisher. What is going on?
I'll tell you what's going on is the biggest fight in the country for protecting our voting rights. I mean, we saw with very clear vision the voices of voters being silenced in Georgia and in Florida. When Republicans got done silencing voices in Arizona, 40,000 Hispanics fell off the voting rolls. And so Representative Reynolds and I, we were warned. We knew this was coming to Texas. But what folks didn't know is that in Texas, we've got a very strong and a very close black and brown coalition. And we knew it was going to take us, Hispanics and African Americans, coming together, being strong, being bold, and saying we're going to push back. We're going to say no. We're going to show a little audacity and a little defiance. And we're going to go to our nation's capital and tell us, when it comes to voting in this country, we just need one standard, and that's the American standard. We need voting access for everybody. This is not a red issue, a blue issue. This is an American issue. And we've been here now for 27 days, and we're not leaving until we get another vote in the U.S. Senate to move this dialogue, so that we can bring reforms, and that's what we're doing here today in Washington, D.C.
Well, Representative Martinez Fisher, is there the governor has called for another special session. What's going to happen?
Well, listen, the governor can call as many suppression sessions as he wants. No one thought that we can defeat him by walking out in May, and we did. Nobody thought that we could defeat him in July, and we did. And as Commissioner Ellis mentioned, when the House tried to convene yesterday, they only had 81 people. You need 100 to do business. Every day is a struggle. Every day is fluid. I would encourage all listeners, and if you know a Texas lawmaker, or just look one up, we're all online, call their office and tell them to be bold, tell them to be strong. We're doing it every day. We have a buddy system for the folks here in D.C. to call the folks back in Texas to make sure that they're being strong and not going to be weak in a moment of legislative nervousness. And so we're going to continue to fight this thing. And then, as we mentioned, we put all our tools back on the table and we reserve all our options. And we have now found ourselves a new tool. We have been working with some very, very prolific and experienced lawyers. And we think that we may need to bring the intervention of our court system to referee this dispute. And if that were to happen, that's going to reset the frame where we could have a court order protecting us from having to go back to Governor Abbott's suppression session.
State Representative Ron Reynolds out of Texas.
Peter,
Yes, Reverend Jackson.
the way this is real political power, it's the difference between 65 and now. Again, I repeat, this time we had 5 black Congress people, 1 black official in the whole South, Leroy Johnson in Atlanta, Georgia. The fact that Texas, that they can do this now means that without these legislators, they would in fact take the voting rights as did in the 1900s, 1800s again.
Well, Reverend, what's very exciting is to see this Black and Brown coalition, which is something that you have been fighting for. Dr. King's been fighting for more than half a century. To see it
My
mature.
promise of this struggle is solidify that coalition.
Absolutely.
That's a Texas majority.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. So, State Representative Ron Reynolds, tell me, what do you see? I mean, you all have been in Washington, what, 27 days? How does that work?
Yes, yes. Tomorrow will make basically a month. We came here on a Monday. First of all, good morning. It's great to be on the show with the people I have the utmost respect for, and it was great being on the front lines with Reverend Jesse Jackson on consecutive days, and to see his spirit and his leadership and lending his voice to this fight, that really made it real. Someone who's been on the front lines with Dr. King, someone who is shoulders we stand on today, and to have my mentor, Commissioner Rodney Ellis, fly from Houston to be with us and host many of us at a reception. That was very uplifting because we've been away from our families, our friends, our comfort zone for, going on a month. And it was great to, have a day that we could unwind. But Representative Trey Martinez Fisher is right. I mean, we're in the fight of our lives, and we're not just fighting to protect the democracy for Texans, but really this is the battle for the country. We just celebrated the 56th year anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And we know that came with a great sacrifice. Many people who made tremendous sacrifices, who even died for the precious rights that we enjoy today. And here we are in 2021, where Republicans are trying to turn back the clocks to a dark day in our country. And we are taking a strong line that we will not turn back. And so what we have forged, as Representative Martinez has said, is a new, and this is my, sixth term. Representative Martinez Fisher has been there longer than I have, but in my 6 terms, I've never seen the kind of unity that we have within the Black, Brown, African American, Hispanic coalition. And we are the majority in the state of Texas, and that is why the Republicans are working so hard to suppress the votes. They're not trying to address voter integrity. They're trying to do everything they can to disenfranchise folks. They're not doing it to prevent voter fraud. They're doing it so that we don't vote. And when we don't vote, they can win. And so we have to continue to fight and speak truth to power. And we have to, as Democrats, have a backbone. We have to be able to say that this is where we draw a line in the sand. We believe that there should be no recess until there is a passage. Yes, we want infrastructure, but we want voting rights. We believe that if there's no voting rights, then there goes our democracy. And so goes voting rights, so goes criminal justice reform, so goes climate change, so goes minimum wage and access to affordable health care. Because once they take back the ability to suppress votes, then they can do anything and everything they want to. And that is ultimately what they're striving for. And so this is a fight we're fighting, and I'm willing to hold out as long as it takes to get the Senate to do what they need to do. And lastly, I want to say this, is that the time is right. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, the fierce urgency of now. We don't have a lot of time left on the clock in terms of getting this done. If we aren't careful, we're going to look back and realize that this was the demise of our democracy. Republicans took back control of the House, and McCarthy is now the Speaker of the House. Republicans took back control of the Senate, and Mitch McConnell is now the majority leader again. And then and a few years down the road, they will be able to then take back the White House. And so that is the path that we're on if we don't get our acts together now. And so I hope that, Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema and the rest of them will do whatever it takes. They carve out, make a special exception, pass the voting rights with 50 votes, because Republicans aren't interested in any bipartisanship.
State Representative Martinez
Listen,
Fisher, you said that you have framed this as a national issue. I've got 2 minutes before we go to break. Help us to understand why people in Illinois, people in California, people in Michigan, people in Vermont, people in Florida, Georgia, why should this matter to us in places those of us who don't live in Texas?
Absolutely. Well, the current federal proposal is going to reset the frame for voting, and it's going to deal with a number of issues, beginning with voter access. And so, number one, the proposed law before the U.S. Senate would make voting a national holiday. And so let me repeat that. It's a national holiday where folks don't have to work and try to figure out a way to vote on Election Day. Number two, it will require and mandate 15 days of early voting. And why that's important, I don't believe that like a state like Delaware doesn't have an early voting. And so this would give a uniform early voting process for every single state. It would eliminate partisan politicians from gerrymandering and drawing congressional districts. They will use independent redistricting commissions. In a state like Texas, we're going to get 2 new seats in Congress. I'd rather have independent, objective folks drawing districts than partisan Republican Governor Greg Abbott. To the point of losing the majority in the U.S. House, it was reported last weekend by a voting rights expert, Ari Berman, that Republicans control redistricting, which is the drawing of lines for congressional districts, in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas. And in those 4 states alone, if Republicans have it their way, they can draw enough seats to take the majority away from Speaker Nancy Pelosi and our Democratic House majority. So we want a Biden agenda that's built from the ground up and the middle out. We want to support the middle class. We got to have a House that's going to support those policies. We all know what happened back in the days of President Obama when we lost the U.S. Senate. We couldn't get anything done. We can't afford to go backwards. We've got to get forward. And having a national voting rights standard is important. And I will finally come up with it. It's so important to the country that President Representative has fortune to allow with 100 lawmakers in 25 states that came up this past week to stand to support it in our fight. That alone shows you the country paying attention and the nation needs this law, and we need the U.S. Senate to act.
Stay right there, everybody. Call us at 1-866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. Voting rights in Texas are under threat, but they're under threat everywhere. They're under threat everywhere. The White House has said you can out-organize them. Cheryl Lynn Eiffel from the national from the NAACP, Legal Defense and Education Fund, said, no, we can't do that. We can out-organize. We can register people vote. We can do all of that. But we need the White House to step forward. We need Congress to step forward and to pass these voting rights bills. But now the Senate is in recess. Do you think that's right? Call me at 1-866-594-HOPE. We have got state representatives from Texas, Trey Martinez Fisher and Ron Reynolds, and Texas Harris County Commissioner, one of the biggest counties in the country, everybody. Rodney Ellis, who has been tutoring them through this process. He did this 18 years ago when he was a state senator. He's done this before. Of course, we got Attorney C.K. Hoffler, outgoing president of the National Bar Association and chair of Rainbow Push. She's going to let us know, if we're going to the next hour, about their legal options. What is before us, everybody? What is before you? We're already in the election season. You see, we just had a big election in Ohio. Nina Turner she wasn't triumphant, but you had Shontel Brown, who was. You have also one of President Trump's acolytes who won. So we're in the middle of 2022, everybody. We're here. But will your vote count? And 2024 is just beyond that. Will you, these 4 states that Trey Martinez Fisher, state representative out of Texas, talked about, can overturn an election? Wow. Back with more of Keep Up Alive in just a few minutes. Reverend, they're saying we got some sound issues today. Popping.
And Peter,
Yes, Reverend.
the notion that won by 7 million, but he really won by 4,000 votes.
Right. You can make that point.
Yeah, and the other reason is that this is a Confederate Union Army site.
Daddy?
If Texas falls, the rest of the South will fall.
Daddy. Daddy.
Yeah.
Okay, that might, the batteries might be good.
Oh, well, then let's get this. Okay. I should have brought, do you have batteries over there?
I have to go get them.
Okay. Okay, you guys, we're working through a lot of stuff here today.
Reverend?
Okay, thank you all for being so patient. Okay, am I gonna have to let the state representatives go after this break?
Hey, listen, I hope not. I got a question I'd like to ask them.
Okay, well, hold on, because we're gonna go right to, if you all don't mind, I'm gonna come right to the, I literally have 1 minute, and then I'll come back in on the other side of the break in another minute, okay?
Trey and Ron, you guys are good. Y'all in exile. Stay on.
Are you going biking today, Commissioner?
No, it's too hot. I bike in DC. It's too hot.
You're not going to bike in the swamp?
My therapy will be the gym. I'm going to the gym indoors.
Oh my gosh.
How about this? Today I'm hot. I rode 40 miles yesterday.
He's got my brother biking
I had
all
hard
over
to
the
get
world. Jonathan now he bikes all over the world thanks to Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He is biking everywhere. He's gonna, what is it, bike, what, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I did yesterday. I went to a rally. Biked over there. It got too hot. They talked too long. I couldn't find anybody to pick me up and came back.
Stand by. We're coming in. It's just gonna be, we're literally coming in and out. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
And okay, I'm talking about people on Facebook too. Can you all hear me now? Carol, you said it's hot in Los Angeles, but hotter in the San Fernando Valley. It's always a mess in the valley. Ugh, you know that. You want to get close to the ocean if you're in LA, if you can. But you can hear us
She's talking
now.
about those fires. She's talking about those forest fires.
Yeah, can you imagine? And it happens all the time. One of my best friends is still has a home up in the hills, and she is having to leave.
It's scary.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
climate change.
Yeah.
When it fires in California, freezes in Texas.
Oh, we're coming up. It's going to be a quick in and out, so we can get right to it. Okay. Okay. No, honey, I didn't put the, Gene, I didn't put the batteries in backwards. They've just worn down. So we're having to change them out actually right now. I'm sorry. So everybody can talk. CK?
Good morning. Yeah.
Oh, no, we're on Facebook Live, but you can talk to everybody now.
Okay. Yeah. What I was saying was, and first off, thank you to the brave soldiers in Texas who are leading the way. And I was just reading, the litigation too. I really wish in Georgia, where I live, and in Florida, where I used to live, that Black and brown communities had united and had the foresight to do what you all were doing. Because it is, and while I do hear Sherlyn Eiffel saying, we can train the voters and all that, and that's what people are doing here in Georgia, and you almost feel like you're training people for lunacy. It is lunacy to be trained to not be able to do humanity while you're waiting in line to vote, because we know the lines here in Georgia, like in Florida, are going to be very long. I lived long lines in the last election, several elections, and they're going to be worse now with these voter suppressive laws because they're compressing the time that people can vote. And so to have inhumanity while standing in line to boot is just really a travesty. So I really wish that Georgia, and I say we, all of us, had the foresight, the vision, and the courage that you all have in Texas. So I really applaud you. And Rodney, I think I met you when you were working with Mickey Leland. So long.
Are we sure? Look at this one.
It was longer than the age that I admit to. But yes.
Yeah, as long as it's a long line, maybe different people, once you do it, then they have the right to they certify the vote.
Absolutely.
Both ends.
Absolutely.
They certify.
Absolutely.
And Reverend, these bills are coming. It's a nationwide phenomenon. Alex, this right-wing legislative group came up with the concept, and it's moving all around the country. I mean, even places like Iowa are where they're doing it. But look, you're so correct. These House members, even back when we broke the quorum when I was a state senator, the House members did it first. Back then, they went to Ardmore, Oklahoma, when they were trying to redistrict in Texas, and they killed that bill by leaving for a weekend. Trey Martinez Fisher was a young, feisty state rep back then. Trey might have been about your second term in the House way back then when you did it, and that's what prompted us in the Senate to go do it. So once again, these House members led the way during the regular session. They broke the quorum, went to church, by the way, and dared them to come down there and arrest them. Black church down the street. But it's bold now. And there's a price to pay for it, which is why it's so important. Reverend and other folks went up. CK, they were there when you and I were up at the White House a couple of weeks ago, by the way, for the Juneteenth bill when you showed up as well. But look, it's important, and we got to support them. And this legal challenge is something I think gives real promise, because if they're successful at it, it means they can stay in their homes in Houston. It's tough. My third grade teacher's a state rep, Dr. Alma Allen, being away from her home. I mean, it's a challenge for them. Sophronia Thompson's been such a jewel throughout the process. But I want to hear about this legal challenge and your thoughts on it, Trey and Ron, as well as you, CK Hoffman.
Okay. And of course, Frank Watkins had a question for you. So we will get to all of that as soon as we get on the other side of the break. Frank?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, stand by. Whew, we've had quite a morning already, haven't we? Jeremy, we've had a morning.
That's what happens when you're the top progressive talk show in the country.
But I'm gonna have to get State Representative Reynolds and Martinez Fisher on my show. I got to get you on and please, and spread the love around and get you on some of these other shows too.
I sent them numbers, by the way.
You did. No, we called them. They were they were great. We just had some other things this morning. So here we go.
Hey, what's up now? Brother, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Man. Yeah, brother, solid. Right on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. It's Sunday, August 8, 2021. Reverend Jackson said, hey, we got to look at the filibuster. There's a mini nuclear option. You don't have to end this filibuster. You can suspend it for different votes. And now the Senator's gone into recess, and we've got these voting rights bills that are before us that could really change all of our options, that could ensure that all of us have equal access to the vote. We've got Texas state representatives, Trey Martinez Fisher, Ron Reynolds, Texas Harris County Commissioner, and former state senator Rodney Ellis, who's been helping to tutor them through the process because he's done this before. And of course, the outgoing president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. She did a magnificent job there, and she's the chair of Rainbow Push, where she also does a magnificent job. Brilliant lawyer, attorney C.K. Hoffler. And of course, we have got Reverend Frank Watkins, the co-author, along with Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., of A More Perfect Union, Advancing New American Rights. Indeed, the 20th anniversary edition should be out in the coming weeks, and we are anxiously anticipating that. Months?
Months.
Okay, we're waiting. We're waiting. But you had a question for everybody, Reverend Frank Watkins.
Yeah, I have a question for the representatives, and of course, Commissioner Ellis was a former legislator. The governor has said if you come back to Texas, he'll have you arrested and make you come to the Capitol. What is required to count as a quorum? You need 2/3 of a quorum, I understand. So what would keep, even if he arrested you and made you come to the Capitol, it doesn't, it wouldn't alter the fact that everybody had to go to the bathroom at the same time, left the chambers. That wouldn't be a quorum, would it?
So I can go first. This is Trey Martinez Fisher. If a quorum is made or they put a call on the House, they'll literally lock down the Capitol, lock the door of the chamber, and you wouldn't be allowed to leave unless you were given a hall pass to go and come and be very specific about where you're going. Unfortunately, on the House floor in Texas, the bathrooms are inside the chamber, so we couldn't even leave to go outside to use the facilities. And it takes 100 people in the House. I think yesterday they had 80, 81. And we know that there are Republicans who are out on vacation. We know there are Republicans who have COVID. We know that some Republicans don't want to be there either. And so it's not a matter of them being at 100% attendance and they need us. They need to get some of their own rank and file to go to the floor. But there is an interesting question because no rule where the government can compel a lawmaker to do anything might not be valid when we have a constitution in Texas that says that a lawmaker shall never be detained except for a felony, a felony, treason, or breach of the peace. Outside of those three things, you shall not ever detain a lawmaker when the House is in session. So I think there's a very, very compelling question as to whether or not the government even has the authority to make Ron Reynolds or myself do anything.
And Trey, I should mention, I think when Abe Lincoln jumped out of the second floor of that building, that church building in Illinois, as it turned out, they already had the quorum. So if your colleagues, if they get enough of them, coax enough of them, promise them something to show up and make the quorum, once it's made, they'll stay in session. You know, Frank, so once you get in there and you make the quorum, then when somebody leaves and goes to the restroom, your quorum was established. So that's why they have to be careful not to go. So I'm hoping that they can put a little pressure on their colleagues. Radio shows like this help. We might even have Reverend call a few wayward ones. I'm going to give him a list, Trey and Ron, representatives. Give him a few names to call and put some other folks to pray with him a little bit. Bishop Dixon to call a couple of them as well.
Well, give us all a list, because I think between radio and television and journalists and people who have access in social media, we ought to be encouraging people to call and to text and to email so that we can continue to nationalize this issue. Because as you've said, State Representative Martinez Fisher, this is something that impacts us all. Ron Reynolds, give us some marching orders. State Representative Ron Reynolds.
Well, I think that we just came up with a great strategy, and that is to make sure that we call and encourage the Democratic colleagues to hold the line, to continue to stay on the front line, to continue to stay committed towards the fight to stop voter suppression. And that is to make sure that they don't make quorum, because I can guarantee you that the House Republican leadership is promising everything under the sun. Hey, you want to be a committee chair, or you want to chair this powerful committee, or we can do this or we can do that. I'm sure that there may be even some lobbyists that say, hey, we'd like to host a fundraiser for you. Why don't you just come on back to Texas? So, there are all kind of incentives that they're trying to give them, but there's nothing that they can offer you that would be worth taking away somebody's, and I mean millions of people's, precious fundamental right to vote. And so we have to remember that we're there to serve the public, not to serve ourselves. That's why they call us public servants. So we need for our colleagues to stay strong, to stay unified. And the only way that they can overcome this resolve is if they start breaking us down one by one. And that is why I think that when we just said, Commissioner Ellis, that, we can get the Reverend Jesse Jackson, one of the moral authorities of this country. We lost our dear brother, John Lewis, who was another one of those figures, but we have among us a living legend when it comes to the civil rights movement and when it comes to the battle to restore equality in this country. And so we want to utilize the Reverend Jesse Jackson. We want to utilize our civil rights advocates and our leadership in this country to keep this issue pressing and front and center. So I think it's a great idea that we make those phone calls, that we put out a call to action, and that we encourage those members that may be on the fence as they get a little weary as we head into the second suppression session to continue to hold out. We have still work to be done at the United States Senate. We have a current pending legal action. And so there is activity. There is no waving the red flag. We are in this fight, and we're going to continue to press forward until we get HR1 or SR1 passed and signed by President Biden.
Well, Reverend, we also have Attorney C.K. Hoffler on. Reverend Jackson?
Yes.
C.K. Hoffler, you're the outgoing president of the National Bar Association. You have been able to, you've headed, the largest group of Black lawyers in the world, more than 65,000. Whoa, this is a national issue. Where do we go from here? I mean, is there any legal recourse that
Of course.
Representatives Martinez, Fisher, and Reynolds have? I mean, this is insane. It's like they literally be locked in the chamber.
Absolutely. Good morning, Reverend. Good morning, Santita. To Commissioner Ellis, our dear friend, Commissioner Ellis, and to the remarkably courageous legislators. I said this earlier when we were on Facebook Live that I really wish that states like Georgia and Florida had been able to have the foresight to take a page from your playbook. Because what we really need is solidarity across the board, not just with legislators, but in terms of the legal action. I've had a chance to glance at what's been filed, which I think has some teeth. I think it could be very interesting, but I'd love to see a coalition of legal groups, of organizations that have strong legal arms joining in the litigation and mobilizing their national networks to help support this effort. Because I think that we have to, this is, as Reverend said, Texas falls, we all fall. It's coming. It's coming. Sitting here in Georgia, it's almost like we're in the twilight zone trying to navigate through the voter suppressive laws. And it's not just the laws, it's the attitude that goes along with it that's permeated throughout the state of how they can finally oppress people. That's what comes along with it. And it's just, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And we have Senator Raphael Warnock, who is coming up for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be re-elected in this climate. And that is going to be very challenging. So we have our work cut out for us, but we have to stand in solidarity with what you're doing in Texas. And I think that the legal component, the litigation, it would be wonderful if we could, and I'd be happy to help with this in any way that I can, we could mobilize more lawyer groups that do
pro bono work to help with this. There are a lot of groups that are watching the voter suppression thing. Remember, a lot of law firms, a lot of these groups have stood in solidarity and came out in opposition of the voter suppressive laws and put pressure on companies to do the same. So I think that network has to be mobilized, and I would be happy to, in any way that I can, for Representative Reynolds and Representative Martinez Fisher, if I could help in any way, I'm happy to do that. But then there's another component. You've got the icon right here, Reverend Jackson. His voice can be broadcast on this virtually. He's been there in person marching, but the virtual impact and doing PSAs, this is just a thought, things of that nature, and mobilizing others. He's, to me, the leader who could speak the broadest truth to power in this issue. But there are other civil rights leaders that can help as well, that Reverend Jackson could mobilize to, that I think would be very powerful. Because I think the will of the people is who you represent in Texas, but it's not just Texas. I believe it's Black and brown people and others throughout this country. And then finally, we've got to call the Senate, mobilize our people, call the Senate, get back in the session. What do you mean leaving when we have a Voting Rights Act? I don't even understand that. Santita, you asked the question, was that the right thing? No, that was not the right thing to do. That was not the right thing to do. When something that is so sacrosanct as voting rights, we're going to go on vacation. I mean, I just think that we have to be collectively more aggressive on all fronts, the legislative front, like you all are doing, the grassroots front, and the legal front.
Well, let me ask State Representative Reverend. Yes, Reverend.
One of the byproducts I've spoken group in Washington on Tuesday, Black and browns have come together in a survival fight. Black and browns are really the majority of the state. If we can translate this into the voting population, now I August 28th, we should be looking at 10 key southern states and have meetings in state capitals those days, whether Little Rock or whether Austin, Texas. There's some of them in Washington. August 28th, we should use that day for Black and brown for other voting.
Well, State Representative, we're joined by Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, Esquire, Rainbow Push, of course, senior pastor of Douglas Memorial Community Church, that iconic church that, of course, was pastored by Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, who's now the senator, before he went to Ebenezer in Atlanta. What do you see? Because you are this is impacting all of us. But how do you perceive this, Reverend Dr. Urey?
Well, it is indicative of a call to moral courage. Here's how I see it. When your biggest obstacle is your own crew, then you got to get your crew in line. This should not be this hard after selling us. If you give us the majority, we'll take care of your business. That seems to have been just a ploy to get what they wanted without following through on what the people want and need. And so I think this is an issue of we want more of the Lyndon Johnson kind of leadership in this moment than the Joe Biden leadership that we seem to be getting, because he's taking on the more conciliatory tone. But this is a fight for, he even said it, it's a fight for the soul of America. He made it about Trump. Trump's gone now. The issue now is about Trumpism, the regressive taking over state houses that we've seen for decades, going back to the 90s, the contract with America. That process of gradually eroding the control to redraw the maps, to take over the legislative houses at the state and the federal level, to be able to basically impose the will of a very narrow political philosophy on the rest of us. And so I think that's where we've got to figure out where we're going. And I think we've got to make more demands of the president to get more forceful and more directly involved in this process to make all of this move. Police reform, voting rights, infrastructure, taking care of the human capital needs across the country. All of that is needed right now, but the president can't just be, kind of in the stands like he's a spectator. He's got to put on the uniform and get on the field. And I think he's got to do that like it was yesterday.
To that point, Reverend.
Johnson passed the war on poverty, all taking opportunity, but nothing really matters but the right to vote. With that, you get everything else. So we we must hold by the high standards.
Absolutely. And state representatives Martinez, Fisher, and Reynolds. Let me start with you, State Representative Martinez Fisher. The president has said that ending the filibuster would create chaos in the Senate, even after he gave this magnificent speech on voting rights. And the White House, according to reports, have told voting rights advocates that you must out organize. Cheryl and Eiffel of the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund said, whoa, we can't out litigate this. We need you all to step up. What kind of response are you getting from the White House and from the Senate and the House? State Representative.
Well, yeah, no, thank you. Well, first, I'll say we have hope, and we're honored, to stand with the administration and with the U.S. Senate. I will point to, I don't know another domestic policy issue that's had a second vote in the U.S. Senate, and very close in time. So there was a vote already in June on voting rights. Now there's going to be a newly introduced version, and according to Leader Schumer, a vote before they go home, which is anticipated to be early next week. And so I have hope. I also, as a lawmaker, kind of long in the tooth, this is my 20th year in the Texas House, I understand the legislative process, and I understand how things have to happen and work themselves out internally. And perhaps, I can't ever speak for President Biden, but I imagine the amount of deference and respect he has for the Senate to work its will, for Leader Schumer to command and lead his chamber. I do believe with the Reverend is that we gotta step it up, and we got to make sure that we get the team, get the crew in line. And I think it's going to take a hard push. And I will just, remind you that a week ago, Friday, the president and vice president met with the Speaker of the House and Leader Schumer, where they have reaffirmed their commitment to voting rights. I hope with this newly introduced bill, it was rewritten to accommodate Senator Manchin, but also to be bipartisan and to bring some Republicans on board. We will see what that vote is. And with that result, it'll give us our marching orders for the August recess, where we have to organize, we have to lock arms. I will tell you, Representative Reynolds and I have had the pleasure of having 2 meetings with the Vice President of the United States, both of them for a significant amount of time, for the most powerful woman in the world. And she talked to us over and over and over again about this Black-Brown coalition and how proud she was of it, and how we can replicate this across the country. I know Representative Reynolds and I are willing to do our part. We do need to organize this country. We have fought battles with Sherilyn Eiffel before. We have been blessed to have representation from the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights. I agree with y'all are singing my song. We need this help. We need to organize. I anticipate we might be making some breaking news announcements within the next 24 hours. And to the extent that we have contact information to communicate that to you all so that you can put it out on your platforms, because this isn't a Texas thing anymore. This is a national thing.
Representative Reynolds. Is he still there? Okay, well, you know what, everybody, I want you to call me at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Let's talk about this. What can we do, Commissioner Ellis, to make this a national issue? I mean, I can see all of these radio shows that reach so many people. I think of these newspapers. I just think of the social media influencers. This has to become a real big issue right now. If you were going to speak to some high school kids, or if you were going to go speak to some people, what would you say? What case would you make today?
Press coverage matters. The reason they packed up the one-time nation's capital is because this is a federal issue. That's why Reverend Jackson, Dr. King were marching on Washington. They made the right choice to go to the nation's capital. They thought about going to Selma, historic site. And, I'm an old man. It's kind of a deal. I just sit back and tell them. But I did point out to Representative Martinez Fisher Reynolds that governor will get you extradited. You get to test that real quick. And they thought about going to California. Then the image of Washington, D.C. was the right place to go. Look, I heard some to-dos. I'm going to make sure, CK, that I give Representative Martinez Fisher your number, because you can organize those amicus briefs for this lawsuit quick. You ought to call Sherilyn. You ought to call the Lawyers Committee. Old Britain used to be there. I'm going to give Ron Reynolds, you and I take on the task of coming up with strategic names. I think I got dropped off was I was looking at the number of all the Republicans showed up. How many D's do they need? 10? And you all know who to shake you, who the ones who may get nervous first are. But the Reverend can call some. Shelley, former intern, as you were, Representative Reynolds, can get that to Reverend or Todd Urick. And Reverend can call some of his allies, by the way. He didn't have to call. There's 30 of them. He can give some to Mark Muriel, give a few of us. That'd be interesting. They get a phone call from Reverend Jesse Jackson saying, hey, stay strong, or get out of the state, or hide where they can't get you. And if they do take somebody in, I hope they have enough nerve to take in Centronia Thompson, longest serving black woman in the Texas legislature, black person in the Texas legislature, or my third grade teacher, Alma Allen. They take them in, put them in handcuffs. I want to see that all over the news. But Santita, we need noise. That's why it's to move the United States Senate.
And Rodney, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, CK. I got Reverend Jackson.
If we lose, the Democrats lose. That's why they're going to see us as the other. And then Pelosi and Schumer has to build the whole thing together himself. We're not the other. We're not the president. They must be on our team on this situation.
Well, Reverend, why won't they at least suspend the filibuster for these voting rights bills? Why won't they do that? 30 seconds.
That's fight to be fought. They carve out. They've done it for military budget and the like. This is a grave situation. Carve out either in the filibuster or carve out voting protection.
Well, everybody, let's talk. We want to hear from you. 866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. Did you think that the issue was this serious? It really is. It really is. And we're going to do our best to push out this message. We're talking about our voting rights and what's happening with these runaway state representatives who are seeking refuge, who have sought refuge in Washington, D.C. What does this mean, everybody? And you've got the governor of Texas threatening them from afar. What will that mean? How can they be protected? How can we all be protected? Our voting rights here on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on? What's going on?
And you're not intimidated.
Now, why do they need to be physically surrounded by lawyers, CK?
Because I just think it sends another message.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they try to do, a lawyer right there is going to be doing whatever we need to do to file in court to resist all that. Not resist in a violent way, but with the court. And I think there might be some proactive legal steps that can be taken, declaratory judgments and the like. I don't know Texas law, not like in Texas, that could get ahead of this because we know where the governor's headed. So it's just another level of fight that I think should happen. And there are many firms who will do this on a pro bono basis. In Washington, for instance, that are aligned with this issue. It's just a question, I think, maybe mobilizing them and making sure they're willing to step out and see it as a state, as a global issue.
Stand by. Hold on. We're coming up. If you could make that Hey, everybody, welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We are talking about Texas today, but actually, we're talking about the United States and our voting rights, everybody. They're under threat, everybody. Governor Abbott of Texas is being very aggressive, as he has been threatening with arrest these Texas state representatives who've broken the quorum. They said, if they're physically there, uh, the Texas state legislature can pass laws that will further restrict voting rights in Texas. It's already the most restrictive state in the union, everybody. Oh, excuse me, the Republic of Texas. But Joy Davis says this: the issue is very dangerous here in Texas. Our voting rights will be stripped here, and the bill will have created felonies for sending someone a mail in ballot application, as well as limiting the hours we can vote. We have 24-hour voting, and the bill would limit that. Um, Starting with the state representatives. Well, Reverend Jackson, well, let me go back to you, Reverend. I mean, because I know you have been here before. You have been here before. I mean, but this pushback is so incredible. I mean, the governor is so.
I'm not sure we've been here before. I think they want to make it difficult to vote. They want to decertify the vote. And the legislature determine who wins the state. You can't get a more crass position than that. That's why Nancy Pelosi and Schumer must be part of the protest. They're going. If we lose, they lose. We lose, Democrats and Democrats lose.
Well, I mean, do they believe that those are the stakes, or are they protecting other interests? I mean, does this go beyond something that is partisan? State Representative Martinez Fisher, because it seems like, okay, this is something that Democrats should be campaigning on. They should be messaging about this all over the country. We're not hearing this. We need to be hearing more about this.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a orchestrated effort by the Heritage Foundation, very conservative organization that's bringing this cookie cut legislation. It's already pre-baked, and they're just getting Republican chambers to file these and to get these passed. And we need to push back. And we're really fighting, a 50-state war. And what we really need is a national battle plan coming out of the U.S. Senate, and that's what the For the People Act does. That's what the John Lewis Advancement Act does. But in Republican states, it sometimes feels like we're outmaneuvered and outgunned. Texas lawmakers showed how to stand up and push back, led by minority coalitions of our Black and brown community. But make no mistake, we've got to keep the pressure up. We've got folks who feel like we are holding the line, but we're losing momentum. We let people know that this is the time to be strong, not to give in. And so we need our advocate community to speak out. We need folks to get in Texas's business because it impacts the country. Ron and I can tell you how many times, national leaders have thanked us for elevating this issue. We came up here on a Texas issue, but we will right away knew that this was important to the country, and this is now a national issue. And make no mistake, this is a way to control the drawing of congressional districts through redistricting state by state. This is an effort to control a U.S. House majority. And make no mistake, we already saw folks try to take away a presidential election. Fortunately, they did not have a Republican House of Representatives. So what happens when they do in 2024? What are we going to see with insurrectionists trying to nullify and take away a vote? We're winning the popular vote in this country hands down, but they're trying to run the game on us with the Electoral College and how the Congress certifies these votes. And so this is all connected, and it's very, very important.
Reverend Jackson?
Again, last week we met with Joe Manson. A group of us met with him in his office. He said Reagan and Trump won the state by 4%. He is afraid. We may have a rally that firm as student residence is a big deal now. Students must vote right when Republicans out. They must vote the right to vote. We champion.
You're saying students?
A student led. If you're let's take you from New York, you vote where you live. Students around the nation demand voting because it's the law. The right to vote where you live. They can be different in this battle.
But Commissioner Ellis, you have been one of the leaders in the party. Why is the party not making this a national issue and a state, I mean, state by state. This should be something that should be discussed all the time. If you listen to right wing radio, they have talking points. They literally meet once a week and they disseminate talking points to the pundits on TV, the pundits on radio, the hosts. That is what they do. There is a winning formula here. What is going on, Commissioner Ellis?
The party has helped sometimes behind the scenes so that it doesn't appear to just be a partisan issue. That's why voices like Rev Jackson, Rev Barber are so important. Even when they had the rally in Texas, I couldn't send county resources up to help because they could have crossed the line. But look, the right is much more organized than we are and far more funded than we are. CK, when you talk about lawyers, I think their burn rate was something like, I'm trying to remember, it was about $55,000 a day. Imagine a hotel rooms for 50 some odd members, finding folks to help them with laundry and things. It's expensive. So that's why it is so important to put out the call on shows like this, to surround them by lawyers who take money. They pay legal fees, by the way, which is why, I went up, I thought I'd give them a nice dinner. Representative Martinez, Fisher, and Reynolds, you all were so happy. Y'all were taking those to-go bags to get out of there.
Well, I mean,
but look, this is an expensive proposition. I bet they spent $1 million already.
Well, Commissioner, let's go to the personal cost to each one of these representatives. How do they sustain themselves?
It's tough. Hey, how about this? How about families? How about husbands, wives, partners, businesses? Texas legislators make $600 a month, and it's a challenge. And, children packing up to go to college, it's a tremendous sacrifice on that part. And they did it for the nation. Look, they have become the face of this, by the way. I Googled them the other night, and I told them I think I saw something like 60,000 hits. That means news articles around the world. I'm hearing from interns in Brazil and South Africa who are keeping up with what's going on here. They are the face of it. It's important. It's all about putting pressure on the Senate. I'm hoping Senator Manchin is going through this so that he will see, once they have pared the bill back to what he can live with, they won't get 60 votes. They wouldn't get 10 Republicans to agree to let people take a paper bag outside the polling place. So once that happens and there's a vote and he sees that the Republicans are not going to do it, I hope that gives him political cover to go ahead and do the modified filibuster change. So
Ron, are we ready to raise the money for the group in Washington, given the cost?
Well, we should be.
It's a good point. We were very blessed to raise resources to get us through the first month. We have now 28 members and a few staff still here today, and we're kind of on our own nickel right now. And we have a website called TexasWalkout.com. That's TexasWalkout.com. If anybody wants to help us out, today, in fact, we're going to have a brunch at 2 p.m. So that we can come together just as a family and have a meal together. And I'm going to sponsor that. I'm going to put that out of my resources to just bring people together. And that's what's going to take. Representative Reynolds does the same thing. Commissioner Ellis came in and sponsored a whole reception for us. So believe it or not, he's right. We get our meal while we're there, and then we take a to-go bag with us so we can have something the next day, because it's tough up here. And let's just set aside the personal toll. We're mothers and fathers, and we're spouses. We either work for somebody or we're trying to run our business from far away, and it's not easy, even in the virtual world. And so you add that personal stress, and then we're always worried about paying the hotel bill. And we get through with the grace of God, but it's also with the support that we have out there. So anybody wants to help us out, just go to TexasWalkout.com.
But Attorney Hoffler, we don't know that. That's what we don't know what they are going through. CK.
Absolutely. And in the complaint, they talk about in any civil case, you have to look at damages, and the damages in this case are emotional distress, inconvenience, fear, terror, intimidation, anxiety, all of the things that that come along with being assaulted. This is an ethical and moral assault where they're really carrying the weight for the country. So I do think that greater proliferation of information will lead to greater resources to support. For instance, I was wondering how you all were being supported and what kind of efforts are being launched that people could tap into, whether it's legal support or money support. So it would be very helpful if on our platforms we have that information and we individually with different organizations can raise money appropriately for this. But it has to be framed in the context
the
of
Democrat
saving the nation.
National Committee, Pelosi and Schumer can raise the money for them.
What did you say, Reverend?
Democrat National Committee, Schumer and Pelosi can raise money for them as well. And they ought to.
Yes, they should. And that has been very helpful. You know, the rally you had with Willie Nelson. But let me tell you, the tab said running, and now we're going into the legal phase. We know how expensive that can be.
Yeah, but you know, they I guess, you know, for me, and this is just me doing it. They raise a lot of money. Democrats can raise a lot of money. I mean, if indeed the most prodigious fundraiser in the Democratic Party is Speaker Pelosi. She has raised tens of millions of dollars. They can raise money, and they should be very, very direct about raising money for this group of legislators, because these should be talking points, CK, that you should have on your radio show, that Robert Patillo should have on his, that Ricky Smiley, Tavis Smiley's got a radio station out in L.A. You've got the LA Sentinel. I can just think of places. You've got the NABJ. You've got the Hispanic component to that. This is something we ought to be talking about every day. CK?
Well, absolutely. And in Georgia, for instance, it's real. So being able to connect what's happening in Texas to our locality in Georgia, that's how we do it throughout the nation. And it really takes one or two talking points. That's number one. Number two, since we know that President Biden and Kamala Harris are standing with you on this as well, the fundraising efforts for the DNC. And I know because, you know, Rodney, when we were in Washington last time, you know, Vice President Kamala Harris was right on point publicly, recognizing, acknowledging, thanking those proud and courageous heroes in Texas for what they're doing. So it's not going to be as though there's a surprise. That should serve as an impetus and momentum for the Democratic machinery to raise more money for them. We just have to connect it to the global, that it's not just about Texas, it's about this nation. This is the most highly visible, potentially impactful action that could influence positively voting rights in this country. And we have to frame it that way, because that's how the money comes in. If people just think it's about Texas, people in Georgia are like, well, how does that impact me? Well, it's going to impact you when Raphael Warnock is running for re-election. We have to put it there, and that's where the media can be very important, both mainstream and community media.
Absolutely. I mean, on the local and on the national level. And wait a minute, Frank Watkins, who am I talking to? He's the
other side of that question, the Republican side. I would encourage everyone to read the New Yorker article that Jane Mayer did called "The Big Money Behind the Big Lie." The big money is the Bradley Foundation. They fund ALEC. They fund the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation, or Heritage Action, is one of the major players behind this national move to suppress the vote across the country. The Bradleys are and others are funding the Arizona effort, the fraud that's going on out there. So the Heritage Foundation, the Bradley Foundation, based in Milwaukee, I believe there's, I'm not sure, are they still the owners of the Milwaukee Bucks? The Bradley Center is named after them, so forth. That's who the Bradley Foundation is. And you're talking about big, big money, you know, $500 million kind of money that they have, that they're spending millions to suppress the vote all around the country. This is a nationally funded effort.
You know, I want you to call us at 866-594-HOPE, and really throughout the week, go to rainbowpush.org. We're going to have information there about this. And then, of course, I have the Morning Drive Show on the largest progressive talk radio station in the country. The Santita Jackson Show in Chicago is a progressive talk in AM 950 radio. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, I'm going to try and get these gentlemen on my show, if not tomorrow, the next day. And I think it's something I'm going to reach out to my friends in radio and in TV, but particularly in radio, to get you all on, because I think that number one, we don't know the personal price, Reverend Dr. Uri, that they're paying for this. We don't know about that. You've got the legal angle. Attorney C.K. Hoffler said they need to, each person, each one of these runaway, each one of these brave souls needs to be surrounded with legal help because they have a very aggressive governor coming in on them, threatening them with arrest and worse. We don't know what they're dealing with in their states. We don't know the pressures that their families are getting. We don't know the pressures that their businesses are getting. Indeed, Commissioner Rodney Ellis said they only get paid $600 a month for this work. $600 a month. So clearly they have to work. So we got to think about that, everybody. And you need to go away and share this broadcast, everybody. Please like and share, like and share, like and share. And let people know about this. What's happening in Texas, that's going to be a real big deal for all of us. It already is. It already is. And the Democrats need to make a bigger deal. Yes, this is a 2022 issue that they can run on. I mean, like right now, it's a gift. Do not snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. More of Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a few minutes.
That's all I want you to do. Lord, let light my battle.
Okay, Reverend Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have like about 4 minutes when we come back.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give a minute to you, Commissioner Ellis, a minute to you, State Representatives Martinez, Fisher, and Reynolds. And then that last minute will go to you, Reverend, okay?
Very well.
Okay, great.
Santika, if it's okay, I can give my minute. I'm gonna run late to get ready for something at 10.
Oh, of course, of course. Thank you
But
so
I
much.
appreciate it. I also want to tell you it's a beautiful name. You know, in Spanish, Santika is a little pink.
And I want you to know, es verdad. It's true. Come on. Come on, it's true. I know what's up.
Well, listen, y'all have a blessed rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with everybody.
Well, I'm going to reach out to you and your colleague, State Representative Reynolds, because I like to get you all on my show in the morning.
And I'm going to do that also on Tuesday. I'm going to bring in some Georgia folks so that we can connect for our community in Georgia, how we have to support this and why.
That's right.
So that would be my shows on Tuesday morning. So I will do that, and I will begin working on the legal community. Especially you got, even though I'm no longer president of the NBA, I'll reach out to the president and talk to and all the players. Our affiliate, Rodney, in Texas, we have a huge presence, National Bar in Texas, but also lots of other lawyer organizations that we've worked together over the years on these types of fights. So those rights lawyers and all that. I'm happy to push them a little bit more if that's
But CK, you know,
I'll give you a debrief on what's going on the legal side, so you know the parameters, and then we can go from there. But thank you all. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Blessings to you. Thank you.
Right.
Frank.
Yes.
Frank, could we, CK, it would be great if we could sit with Frank and Commissioner Ellis about some talking points, like a coordinated effort, because Frank knows how to do this better than anybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, Commissioner Ellis.
And Ron, send me that name of the staff person just so I remember. So I got the fundraising contact and all of that stuff, but I'll make sure that I'll be glad to do that. Frank, I always answer the UNCK call. I'll send it to you.
Oh, you sure do. When he's not on that bike, even when he's on that bike.
And Ryan, I'm going to remind you, the last time I saw you, you were just coming off a bike, and I called you and Jonathan at the site, and Jonathan said he couldn't move. He couldn't even come to the phone.
Yeah, we were doing the MS-150, and then he paused like he was falling out. And then Miss Jackson called me, Miss J called one, what had I done when I said, I think he posed. Boy, it was okay.
But see, that's why he should have been in Paris with us, CK, so he could have seen the Tour de France.
The Tour de France. It was great. It was
great. But Roger, we were all of it. We were representing you in spirit and calling your name all over.
We sure were. We missed him, particularly that Sunday when we saw that race. We were like, now, Jonathan said, now, Rodney would love this.
I wanted to be, I bought a ticket. In fact, Alicia and I have to go back to Paris because I have 1 year to use that ticket. The date changed on me. So I had that meeting.
Yeah. And that did cause a little bit, that was difficult. But anyway, we'll coordinate. I'm working today, so,
And
Coming up at 30.
send me the updated Z card. Yes, send me
Stand
your
by.
updated Z card.
Stand-
I think you want what on your number. Okay.
Stand by, everybody. So who do I have here? I have you, CK. I have you, Frank. I have you, Commissioner Ellis. I have you, Commissioner State Representative Reynolds.
Yeah.
Okay, Reverend and Reverend Dr. Uri. Okay, Reverend, just hold on.
15 seconds.
I'm going to give you all. I'm going to go to you first, Todd Uri, 30 seconds. You, CK, 30 seconds. I'm going to give everybody else a minute. Please stand by. When you hear my voice, that means I need you to count.
4.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And thank you for participating in the virtual convention of Rainbow Push Coalition. Go to the YouTube channel of Rainbow Push so that you can see these magnificent sessions. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, marching orders today.
Well, when Reverend Jackson was in Paris, the president of France said that he was a true advocate for the people, a fighter for the people. And he talked about voting rights and Reverend's history of fighting for voting rights. This is the time. We have got to mobilize. The legal community has got to mobilize behind the voting rights fight, starting with Texas, the legislative community, and everyone else. We've got to do it.
TexasWalkout.com. They need your support, everybody. They need your support. They're having to pay for this themselves. Of course, Reverend Dr. Uri.
Well, support the movement, but lend your voice, join the choir, push back at the state and the federal level. All of your state representatives need to know where you stand on the advancement of voting rights, not the erosion of voting rights, and push to make sure that we do the necessary things to carve out the exception to make voting rights the priority in this season.
Reverend Frank Watkins, what should we be doing this week?
We should be putting more pressure on President Biden to step up on this voting rights thing. We should be putting more pressure on him than we're putting on Manchin. To bring in the LBJ example, he was dealing with absolutely out in the open arch segregationists in Georgia. And when they were resistant, he was saying, no, you're going to vote for this. He told them they were going to vote for it. He didn't ask for their vote. He told them they were going to vote for this. That's what we need from Biden at this time.
State Representative Ron Reynolds. 1 minute. Oh, is he gone? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. 1 minute. It belongs to you.
I just wanted to just thank you all for allowing us to use this platform to get this message out. This is truly a national message, and this is the fight of our lifetime. I wasn't around during the 50s leading up to the 60s for the civil rights movement, but I am encouraging all of the millennials, all of the people who said what they would have done if they were around during that time. Well, this is your chance right now to get in the fight. You don't have to be on the front line. You can use your platform. You can pick up the phone call Senator Manchin's office, call Senator Sinema's office. Do what you can to elevate your voice and make sure that you are in this fight, because it's going to take all hands on deck. And again, myself and my colleagues appreciate the national support. CK, we appreciate you and your leadership from the National Bar Association, Reverend Jackson, everybody, Commissioner Ellis, thank you so much. God bless you all. And I look forward to continuing to see us prevail and have a straight victory when President Biden signs that wonderful bill.
Go make it happen. Commissioner Ellis, 1 minute belongs to you.
It was an important week, and I'm so proud of Representative Reynolds and Trey Martinez-Fisher, those Texas House Democrats, for what they did. Reverend Jackson, thank you. Lucy Banks Johnson, LBJ's daughter, was there with Reverend Jackson in Washington, D.C. Then she came on back to Texas. We unveiled a statue of LBJ, and it's just amazing to look at all that he did for civil rights, because he was prodded. He was pushed by Martin Luther King and your father. This is one of those pushing moments. And most of that push, however it's there, is on 2 votes, 2 Democrats in the United States Senate. Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin. These House Democrats put this on the front burner. You all are the face of this, Ron. Hey, hold on. We know you can't hold out forever, but hold out a bit longer. We got our task. You know, you're gonna work up those names of the ones that you think might need a little prodding, some personal calls. Want to be respectful when we call them, but I think they'd be impressed to get a call from the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you so much, Antita, for giving us this platform.
It's yours. It's Reverend Jackson's platform. Reverend, 30 seconds belongs to you.
These are Civil War battle lines. Mr. Biden, yes, but Nancy Pelosi and Schumer can convene, can let the Senate stay in session. He has the power. Between him and Pelosi and Biden, they can determine where states get the money.
Yes.
That power that they're not using. We must put pressure on Pelosi and Schumer.
Call them this week. Call them this week. And until next week, Reverend Jackson, what do you want everybody to do?
Keep hope alive.
Amen, amen, amen. Love you, everybody.